interesting POVs, insights, and I'm sure you will have a lot to take away from this discussion. Before I dive into this discussion and introduce you to the panel of speakers, I'd like to share a bit about MMA with y'all. Here's a crisp video which we have created, and I'll just take you through the same.
Welcome to MMA Global. MMA Global is a not-for-profit global trade body enabling pioneering marketeers to architect the future of marketing. MMA's mission is to enable marketeers to drive innovation, enduring business value, and stronger consumer engagement in an increasingly dynamic and connected world. Our strategic priorities are inspire and educate, enhance capability, measurement and growth frameworks, and advocacy. MMA is governed by an august and experienced board across markets in North America, LATAM, EMEA, and APAC, and is present in 15 countries. We are a 800+ member strong community globally. Let's now look at our global think tanks. Now let's take a look at MMA India footprints. MMA India's member network comprises of organizations from across the ecosystem, being true to its philosophy of collaborating with all stakeholders to drive adoption at scale. Taking a look at the MMA India AMP community, which stands for Accelerating Modern Marketing Practices, is the perfect mix of industry experts and opinion leaders who have joined forces to further accelerate and evangelize modern marketing capabilities and know-how through councils and work streams. Now let's understand why become a member of MMA. Our programs and membership has remarkable benefits and privileges. Here are some of them. Join MMA India councils and drive industry growth by taking part in the development and execution of their charters. Access gated content on MMA's website. Leverage and participate in events to educate, evangelize, and network. Lead industry discussions and get recognized for your thought leadership. Contribute and author industry reports, white papers, and share POV as well as case studies in our newsletters. Also publish your company news or research, etc. on the MMA website. And there is more to MMA India membership. Become a pre-screener or jury at Smarties Awards, a global awards lineage platform. Be a part of our training programs as faculty or student. In an environment as dynamic as ours, having a partner by your side is essential to your success. And for that, MMA is your go-to industry partner. Don't miss the MMA India must-download industry toolkits which can help ensure business success. To know more, visit www.mmaglobal.com.
Well, I hope that crisp video gave you all quite a bird's eye view of what we as a not-for-profit trade body, global trade body, do in India and globally. In case if you all need further information, we have dropped the link to the complete video in the chat box. To come to the business end of this particular discussion today, I'll just take you all through what we would be covering today. We've had a tumultuous last 2 years thanks to the pandemic. So there were glorious uncertainties, which now looks like possibly a distant memory for us. But yes, things have opened up. So how does this festive season look like in the 2 years post the pandemic? how brands and marketers stand out in a competitive and uncluttered, or rather cluttered festive environment, and role of content and mobile in driving real connections with consumers this festive season. Before we get into the next session, or rather the panel discussion, I just thought I'll share with you all a few hygiene points. Please type in all your questions. Please mention your name, designation when asking questions, and if any specific speaker you all want to address to. And please keep your questions related to this particular discussion. Well, without further ado, I'd like to quickly introduce you to today's moderator, DEVIKA Sharma. DEVIKA, in fact, is the Director, APAC and O&O Business InMobi Glance. She is responsible for the growth and the advertising for both platforms, InMobi and Glance, driving native and content-led opportunities. In her last 20 years of experience, she has worked with clients such as PepsiCo, Mondelez, Nokia, HSBC, Castrol, Volvo, and many more. So DEVIKA, I now leave the floor open for you to take over and lead the discussion. Over to you, DEVIKA.
Thank you, Lloyd, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Lloyd set the context for the afternoon really well. We are here to talk about festive opportunities today and how different marketers are evaluating the festive opportunity ahead of us and what are their strategies to make the most of this season. So before we introduce our fantastic panel, I quickly want to share a short note with you and talk about how the festive period has actually how is it shaping up, how are consumer trends evolving, and some thoughts on how we can use Glance as a platform to use the same, right? So Lloyd summarized this. The last 2 years have wreaked havoc with our lives, right? And how we've celebrated festivals have transformed in the face of the pandemic. But this year, after 2 years, we are seeing life come back as close as possible to normalcy, and we're expecting to bounce back with the festive celebrations. So let's see how consumers actually look at festive shopping and how they actually discover brands, evaluate them, and then actually make the purchase, right? So you can see 3 trend lines on the slide in front of you, and you'll see that the research and purchase cycle actually starts just around the beginning of the festive period, around Janmashtami, Onam, and Ganesh Chaturthi, right? And the 3 cycles sort of move in tandem, peaking around Ganesh Chaturthi and then around Dussehra and Diwali, right? Diwali sees, just before Diwali is when we see this behavior peaking. But what's interesting is that festive shopping doesn't die out with Diwali. There is a sustained period till about Christmas and New Year where we see people making purchases through this entire time. Now, like we mentioned, that how people shopped during the pandemic changed the entire way that the marketing community was looking at plans during this period. But what is very interesting to note that while a lot of Indians continue to make purchases online during the festive period, there is a very interesting trend that's developed where 45% of Indians actually browse online but buy offline, and an equal number which buys online after checking out brands' products offline, right? So given that we're now looking at a post-pandemic world, how do brands actually reach out to audiences relevant to them? How do they stand out in the clutter that pretty much takes over the festive period? And how do they make an impact in their campaigns, right? So we here today are here to present a solution through which marketers can lock their users' attention through Glance. And we think that a 4-fold model pretty much works very well for this, where we are able to enable seamless discovery, engage and entertain with users on the brand proposition and communication, and then evaluate the impact that these campaigns are able to make to the bottom line. Now, Glance as a platform actually is really special. It stands out because it is the only platform that is able to surface content on the lock screen across any other platform in the world, right? We've been able to scale the platform in a very big way. We stand at about 173 million users on a monthly basis who spend 25 minutes a day on the platform, right? And these are some examples of how brands can use the festive period to create contextual communication on Glance as a platform, right? So there are different ways in terms of how marketers can look at Glance as a platform. There are sectors like e-com who do use us for impact campaigns. There are clients who work with us on sustenance campaigns, whether video or display, and we work with our clients to see how we can creatively leverage their communication objectives and bring them alive on Glance, right? And this is the simple media part of it. But a more interesting conversation is how do we leverage the content that is being published on Glance to integrate brands into the conversation in a native way. And this is where live content on Glance sort of takes a center stage. Live as a feature is not new to the country or to the world. And on Glance, live has been growing in a fairly explosive way, where about 30 million users on Glance consume live content on a monthly basis. And frankly, we see these numbers increasing pretty much week on week, right? So I'd like to actually just play a couple of short videos for you that will give you a sense of what live content looks like, right? So that this is a live content piece.
Oops, खाना पकाया जाता है, बना है तो चढ़ जाता है. Oops, खाना पकाया जाता है.
This is a live content piece, which is about cooking, right? And so as you watch this, think about food-led brands who can actually integrate with this content, or oil brands who can integrate with this content and have far more native conversations with our audiences.
बना है तो चढ़ जाता है, आलू और प्याज को फ्राई कर लीजिए. Okay then. And that's exactly how you do not crack an egg. Correct. ये घर में बिल्कुल ट्राई मत करना, रेसिपी को जरूर ट्राई करना. गार्लिक डालने के बाद जैसे सब गोल्डन फ्राई हो जाए, निकाल के अंडे में डाल के इसको 15 मिनट के लिए साइड रखना है, बट थोड़ा सा धनिया और मिर्ची फॉर दैट देसी टच, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दैट्स इट. 15 मिनट के बाद आप इसको पकाएंगे एक पैन में 5 से 6 मिनट के लिए दोनों साइड से. जैसे एक साइड से पक जाए पलट दीजिए, फिर वापस से पकाइए, फिर वापस पलटिए. एंड एक्सीलेंट एग फ्रिटाटा देसी स्टाइल तैयार है. केक की तरह काट के लाइफ के मजे लीजिए.
Sort of different discussions we're having with our clients in terms of how we can use content and user behavior that is specific to festivals, whether it is related to, fashion, beauty, and shopping, whether it is related to, home care and other festive activities that you sort of partake in with your family. And then there's, of course, food, which is essential to any festive celebration, right? So integrating for brands to integrate with this content in a native way is a huge opportunity, right? Now, how do we take these native integrations and actually build engagement on the basis of that, right? And Glance offers a great variety of opportunities to do this, starting with AR filters, which you can see on the first image on the screen, to Glance experience units, which actually take the brand's proposition and are able to bring alive through these experience units. And another example of that, where the user needs to solve a puzzle to get a code of a Myntra campaign, right? So these are just some examples that we're sharing with you. And then, of course, we evaluate the campaigns that we've done, not just through, standard metrics like impression and click tracking, in-target reach, etc., but also through a BLS, through which we are able to determine what is the uplift in awareness, the ad and the brand recall, the impact of the creative and the perception that the creative was able to make. So with that, I'd actually like to move to our panel and introduce the fantastic speakers that we have here today. If I can invite Lucky SAINI, who's the Vice President and Head of Brand at Meesho, to join us. We also have with us VARSHIKA, who's the Head of Brand Marketing at Tata CLiQ, and MOHIT GUPTA, who's the Senior Manager of Brand and Online Marketing at Airtel. Welcome to all three of you, and can I request you guys to just share a quick introduction about yourselves?
Hey, thanks, DEVIKA, and a very good afternoon to everyone attending this seminar. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Lucky, and I currently head brand marketing for Meesho. And I've been in the industry for about 13 years now, and have taken a variety of roles across advertising, marketing, branding. And I've spent about 5.5 years overall with Flipkart before this. So I've spent close to about 7 years in e-commerce overall. I think consumer behavior, MarTech are my passion areas, and I'm always looking to kind of participate in groups like this to not just talk about my experience, but learn a lot more from the fellow speakers and other industry legends. Right? So I'm really looking forward to some very interesting conversations. And Festive is really big for India. I think India goes berserk shopping in festivals. And I think it's all the positive part of the year. So yeah, and e-commerce also is really, a time when e-commerce looks to the festive to do large numbers. So I'm really excited for this festive, and hopefully I'll be able to share some insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucky. VARSHIKA?
Thanks, Devika, for the lovely introduction, and Lloyd as well. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm JK VARSHIKA. I started out as a humble electrical engineering graduate, and like any other typical Indian student, I jumped right into a tech job after that. Understood that maybe that was not my calling. Did a bunch of other things, and finally, through a spur of chance, went into a social media agency, which is where my passion for branding and marketing started. So down the lane, did an MBA, came to the Tata Group, and now 6 years down the lane, I'm heading brand marketing at Tata CLiQ for the beauty vertical. Really excited to be here, looking to absorb a lot, to engage a lot, and hopefully be able to leave all of you with some food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, VARSHIKA. MOHIT?
Hello, everyone. Firstly, shout out and thanks to the MMA team and to the InMobi team for setting up this webinar with this very relevant, topic as we approach the festive times. And this is something I think this afternoon we all could exchange, some insightful thoughts from one another. And a few details about me. So I like VARSHIKA here. I am also an engineer, and immediately after engineering I jumped into doing my postgrad, which was in which was an MBA program. And post that, I've been in the marketing industry for more than a decade now, and I've had experience across many, I would say, established brands like Microsoft, Samsung, PepsiCo, and a larger part also of my experience. I've worked on internet-enabled businesses, so something like cardeko.com, something like a goivivo.com, and that is how I've really learned, okay, how does the right marketing mix and the right initiatives can really fuel your growth. And in my latest role at Airtel, I am responsible for driving the ATL initiatives for Airtel and also the media partnerships.
Thank you for that, Mohit. I see there's a question that's popped up already, but if it's okay, I will take questions at the end of the panel. And with that, let's start chatting. So my first question is for all the panelists. I think we've all acknowledged that the last 2 years have transformed the way people actually, think, behave, and buy and celebrate festivals, right? How have all of you changed the way that you drive consumer connects and experiences over the last couple of years? Mohit, would you like to go first?
Yes. Okay. So I'll take this one first. So when it, just going back some time in time, and like when the lockdown was announced and all of us witnessed it for the first time happening to us, while many businesses had, you could say, in a way, this timeline to figure out, okay, how do you, re-engineer your business? How do you evaluate it? How do you make, new strategies which work in that kind of domain? But ours is an essential services category, and it's a everyday business, because every day there are, millions of people recharging, and suddenly, every day we are seeing, people falling off the grid simply because the neighborhood store where people used to go to get their recharges done, those were shut. And which is why, multiple sources of this connectivity, they were getting cut off for the consumers. So what we had to do is that we had to, in a real-time manner, we had to act very swiftly. And I think within a week, our teams got together and we opened up some new channels, for people to get their, connections going. So something like tying up with, a leading pharmaceutical chain who had their stores open, and you could get, an Airtel recharge done via those chains. So that was, I think, one of the early things that we leveraged on. And slowly, with the way the whole wave changed our lives, the whole COVID thing changed our lives, we also figured out that, okay, what matters to people, and we started, building propositions on those lines. So for example, we started this initiative called online SIM delivery, and we figured out when, everything can be delivered through an online service, why can't a mobile SIM be delivered? And today, we're glad to be serving, our customers with this service in more than 100 cities in India. Okay, so you can just register for a SIM online, and it will be delivered to your doorstep. Parallelly, there were other programs running, things like we were seeing that people were moving between different locations. So one could be, let's say, your home location, other could be your work location, and this has been happening between different cycles of lockdown, different waves. So we also introduced features like you could have a customized billing cycle. So for, let's say, earlier people used to get charged for their entire rental period, but right now, if let's say you are in your one particular place of stay for let's say given 10 days in a month, you would only be billed for that period, and post that you could just pause your connection. And the last thing when it comes to from a communication aspect is what we're seeing, that earlier we realized that our reliance on offline channels was much higher, and with all these efforts we have moved now a significant set of customers who are now engaged with us online. So we have also over time modified our call to action in our advertising. So earlier, when a CTA would be more on offline terms, maybe, for example, go to a website, go to a store. Now that is changed to a website link, or to simple Google searchable phrases. So these are some of the things that we have done over time, which have helped us kind of counter this whole impact of COVID.
Thank you for sharing that. Pretty interesting. New channels, new propositions, quite a shift in the way
Yes.
you're looking at business. And then, of course, how you move communication and call to actions to online. VARSHIKA, would you like to go next?
Sure, Devika. I think definitely goes without saying that in the last 2 years, there has been this massive shift of perspective, not just about health and travel or relationship, but in business as general. And for a digital company like us, even though we were online, but still a lot of it was very much geared towards sales and discounts and coupons. But the whole pandemic made us stop and think on what actually is relevant to the consumers, right? So there was two main pivots that we wanted to do. One was how do we move to meaningful conversations rather than just transactional communications, right? How do we let people know that it's okay to pause and stop and maybe think before you purchase? And that's where even how the whole Tata CLiQ luxury especially is coming on with the focus of slow commerce, which is to say that stop and savor your life, because now more than ever we know how important that is. The second thing was about how do we focus on what consumers are looking for now. A lot of the pandemic, we saw that the cycle that consumers generally go through of being unaware to aware to desiring something, to be obsessed with it, and then to get bored of it, that cycle just became that much more faster. People were moving from sardo to fitness to yoga to everything in just like a matter of seconds. So trends became really important for us. Trends used to be tides, which was very slow, incumbent. You knew it was coming, but now they're more like waves that one is crashing onto the other in a second. And therefore, as brands, we have to be really dynamic in that sense. We understood, and we build properties around that. We build properties to bring a storytelling approach to shopping rather than just a discount like chasing coupons kind of thing. So we have properties like Click Connect, like Lux Life, which are more editorial, which inform people what they could buy, how they could buy it, what's new, what's trending. So bringing that emotional and strategic connect with the consumers in an e-commerce industry that's chasing efficiency, I think that's how we were able to connect with the consumers better.
Thank you, VARSHIKA. That's pretty unique as an approach. Lucky, would you like to pick this up?
Yeah, so for carrying forward what VARSHIKA kind of pointed at, right? I think let's look at, I mean, to say what we have done to kind of engage with our consumers, I think kind of takes us back to see what COVID effects have stayed with us, right? So if you really look at it, what really happened behaviorally, right? I think three things kind of stayed post-COVID. I think they've gone exaggerated a little more. One is this sense of community. I think we all reached out to communities. We created new communities in COVID like never before, right? So, and that stayed. So now all of us have multiple communities that we go to, refer to, talk to, right? In multiple channels, and channels I'm leaving aside for now. Second thing that happened is I think content became the go-to place for everything, be relaxation and entertainment, even shopping. So everything we do today is in some way starting and inspired by, and in many ways even culminating with content, right? And so I'll touch upon that piece in some detail. The third one is I think we all became creators in some way, in small, big ways. But I think if you look at the creator ecosystem around us, it's empowering. It's a very interesting stat. This year, the brand endorsements, small and big brand endorsements, combined value, the share of that, upwards of 60-67% has gone to creators, not celebrities. Right? Just that shows the power of creators today, right? And I think we have started to engage a lot more with creators because they're authentic. They're driven by passion, and we all have created new passions in the last 2 years. So I think if you take these three pillars, community, content, and creation, right, or creators, I think e-commerce, because that's where the industry where I come from, what we have done is that we've kind of looked hard at these three pillars, right? So one is, of course, deeply engaging with the content creator ecosystem, right? Not just here and there campaign related conversations, like long-term, identify folks who are really top notch in their game, they're engaging people. And then we develop a slightly more organic relationship. So shoppertainment is here to stay, by the way. So if you have not created long-term partnerships with content creators, you're already like 2 years behind, right, as a brand. And not this tactical stuff. I'm talking like really kind of onboarding a set of long-term content creators, and brand also helping them create content. Remember, brands can help become a part of the journey and not just say, hey, you are making content, integrate me into that content. So we have actively made a large stride in that. And I think for us, it's important because discovery commerce, by the way, is becoming a big deal now. 70% of all shopping decisions are influenced by social and content and creators in some way. So I think as brands, we started to participate in social in a big way. We really take our social SOV very seriously, which means that if we are, of all the conversations happening, if we are not actively engaging with the users on social, and we have metrics to say, if total conversations volume is this, how many of them are we actively engaging with, right? Because every impression and the quality of impression is much higher if you're engaging there. On community, I think what we want to do is I think live commerce is picking up very fast. And I think we've already taken steps. We have launched our own version of live. We'll scale it very, very soon. And I think we're seeing very, very strong traction there. Sellers are really able to talk and sell better, and their ROI is much better because they're able to explain so many things in a live commerce way. And trust me, users are loving it because they ask questions, they understand products. So it's an informed decision, right, in that sense. And to a large section of at-home women, for example, today, right, it's a lot of entertainment happening through live commerce. So I think we have done a lot of work under that. We want to kind of scale it up very fast and make it like a place for Meesho, a place where you just don't come when you have a need to shop. You come when you want to get entertained around shopping, you want to get informed around shopping, and you want to engage with both your community of friends and family on shopping, and also, make your own new community out there. And I think the last part is, I think tech will play a huge role. I think in Festive specifically, I see WhatsApp, for example, playing a very big role in engagement, right? So WhatsApp for business and, sharing not just what you are in Festive, but making your proposition more engaging, right? You share a lot of things, people engage. I want this offer, I want that offer. What are you launching tomorrow? So a lot of interesting stuff is going to happen if you are able to omni-channel create a strong engagement through all of your conversation channels. So the last part I would say is conversational commerce is a big deal. And I think not many folks are actually creating a integrated system to tap into it, right? So from Facebook, chats to kind of WhatsApp chats to having your own, systems developed. So I think what we feel, I think these three pillars of conversational commerce, discovery commerce, and creator commerce, right? I think these are the pillars to make shopping, which by the way, the expectation from e-commerce is you want to make shopping more fun, exciting, engaging, right? Otherwise, there are lots of stores out there. So I would say that's probably the way to kind of the way we look at commerce, and it's changing very, very fast. And I think they're very exciting times.
I agree with you. I was nodding vigorously when you were speaking because I completely agree with you with personally live as a platform. It's actually a multi-$100 billion industry in China and Southeast Asia, and picking up the same is happening in India as well. And we're doing a lot of work in that space. But it's really interesting to see how you're looking at content and creating commerce-led conversations through creators on that. And I think that is really fantastic. Also, interestingly enough, you've segued very beautifully into my next question, which is, now that, we've all, I think all three of you spoke about how businesses and marketing approaches evolved in such a big way over the pandemic, right? But now that we're sort of coming back to normal, and this year, we will see that we're hoping that the festival will be celebrated as normally as possible, so to speak. How does this sort of flow into your plans for this year and your strategy for this year?
Great, I'll take that. So I think some of the things are going to be very interesting, and I think that's how we are looking at Festive. I think obviously mobility is back, right? The latest Google mobility report suggests that people are out and about, and how, right? In a big way, and travel is booming. People are just out there today, right? In a big way. So I think a lot of outdoor discovery will become important. So you got to create phygital experiences, and I think even outdoors are evolving in a big way. Like today, programmatic outdoors is becoming a big deal. You can change messages based on context and stuff. So I think brands need to really think hard on how are they going to use mobility as a theme, and how are they going to use outdoors as a theme to kind of engage with folks, because this is big, right? A lot of times being spent out there today. So I think we will really kind of want to kind of crack that in an interesting way, not just an FYI way, but more engaging way, right? In fact, how can you use outdoors and mobile to kind of talk to each other? So I think that could be an interesting play, because people are out, but people have their phones and they could interact in an interesting way. So that's an interesting play we would like to kind of develop. Second is, of course, I can't emphasize more on, I think the expectation on the Festive is a lot more than just selling and offers, because that's becoming mainstay. And in fact, in some ways, it's also noise, right? Like up tos and percentages off and all have become like everyday scenario. But I think the excitement of Festive, right, and commerce is a lot to do with shoppertainment. So I think we will, of course, want to do a lot of work around it. How do we kind of partner with, like I said, creators to do a Festive, like almost like a Festive sprint, right? Like you make a plan in terms of what that 1 month looks like. So like you very clearly showed in your graph, Indian festive activities begin from Ganesh Chaturthi and then they go all the way, right? So thematically, how can you start engaging with folks across these spikes? And also, by the way, regional is a big play, and Meesho is like hugely mass in that sense. We work across 11, 12 languages. So we are also focusing a lot on creating a state level playbook, right? So I think one needs to start looking Festive, because while India is largely a big festive occasion, but a lot of these small occasions make big stories in state levels, right? So how do you kind of engage with content and shoppertainment and creators at a state level, right? I think that would be an important, because these are all festives, have rituals, they have purchase occasions which are very regional and local, right? So I think how do you kind of almost like 10x go on localization? I think that would be another strategy. A lot of work is happening, by the way, in this. We all know how languages have taken over, be it chat, Moj, and all of the things. I think the last part I would like to say is that I think in the media mix, I think, and it will be difficult for marketers specifically because it's becoming even more fragmented as we speak, right? And plus reach will always dominate conversations because, you want to kind of tap into a large demand this year, right? So I think it'll be interesting how you kind of split your media into reach and engagement. And I think if you are able to give enough thought process to what would get high quality reach and what would get high quality engagement, I think these two pillars have to work together. And I am also a big believer, by the way, now with the fragmentation of media, that I think everybody should start putting another filter or another, so to say, KPI is measuring the attention of every media. So, quality of attention of every media, specifically digital in that sense, right? For example, your case of, the lock screen is always there. You just open and it's always kind of very high captive attention, right? So massive recall happens in that sense. But again, remember, festive is also a period when you want action. You would want a lot of people to come download, check out your apps, do a lot of browsing, add to carts, right? And a lot of success today depends on how many of your folks leading up to festive are you able to kind of prime for purchases.
Yeah.
So therefore, how many of people do you inform of the available selection? How many of them are then able to kind of make up your mind even before festive of add to carts and make your wish lists and get shopping ready and all that? And the last part is closer to the sale event. What do you do in engagement and content and impact that, like we say, right? So that last part of the sprint of creating desire and high intent, right, is in place for people who are just at the fence, who will still not be kind of thinking of making too much of commitment in terms of deciding what to shop, will then turn over. So I think it's almost like how offline also works, right? You go prepared, you have a shopping list, you enter, you find some things new, you also add a lot of things near the counter. So many impulse shoppings happen. So I think broadly speaking, that's the GTM that we are looking at, ensuring that we cover all these bases well. And it's going to be an interesting time. I think there will be more demand than supply like usual, and things are getting blocked in advance, but consumers the winner at the end of the day.
Always is. And I think it's actually really interesting what's coming across in all of the comments I'm hearing. Today, more than ever, the consumer is king. I mean, it's something that marketers have been speaking about for a bit, but to see that come to life, whether in terms of business strategies or whether in terms of taking consumer content consumption trends into account and then building plans around that, just makes for far more powerful marketing strategies, in my opinion. Varshika, so thank you for that, Lucky. Varshika, same question for you. How are you using the learnings from the pandemic era and how does that impact your strategy in a world where we will be celebrating the festivals in as normal a way as possible?
Yeah, that's true, Devika. I think a lot of our learnings were also around what Lucky mentioned in a lot of ways, and especially like you mentioned, customer is king, because now more than ever they have so much more information and they understand the value of a product that's useful to them. So they know now that instead of maybe buying another watch, I know that I need another headphones. That's more useful to me. And as a brand, if I'm not able to tap onto that pulse to understand what's relevant to a consumer, that's not going to help me in any way. So I think now more than ever, it's not about selling the highest ASP product to a consumer. It's about selling the most relevant product to a consumer. And that's why when we tackle the festive season this year, it will be more about, are we able to strike the right communication at the right touch points so that everything is speaking to each other, right? So when you go to Google search for, let's say, a white shirt, are we able to bring up the right kind of content or call outs that say that, okay, we have this kind of a selection, a curation, maybe, which is why you can come and talk to us and shop with us. And then when they move on to, let's say, a YouTube and they see our ad there, how do we still keep that communication going and say that, oh, you know what, by the way, our white shirts are so and so and so, and therefore so and so and so. And therefore, when they go out, they see, outdoor ads, they go to any other place, they see our ads, that communication chain is going. So it's not like you're just doing a blast of ads to like everyone at the same time, but how you're able to target the right cohorts, because now it's not to say that I have one target audience, it's to say that I have 10 or 100 cohorts that I need to be able to speak to at the right moment with the right kind of communication. So how am I bringing that kind of automation, that kind of domain expertise, that kind of curation to be able to get to you what you want? Because now when people step out in the festive season, they really want to be on point, right? This is the first time where you'll be actually be able to mingle with people, sense everything that's holding you back. So they would really want to showcase the best of themselves. So how are you talking to them in a way that shows that you know what they want?
Interesting point. So you're focusing a lot on personalization using data, which is fairly interesting to hear. Mohit, how would you like to respond to the same question?
Actually, taking the conversation forward from what Lucky shared and Varshika shared. So actually, yes, data plays a very pivotal role, in our marketing approach, and that is something that we've seen, which has gained prominence, much more than ever. Because see, earlier we were, I would say, I would not, shy away from saying that ours was more of a multi-channel view, and we have gradually moved to an omni-channel view of the consumer, because we have consumers reaching us to at our stores, on call centers, on our own digital assets. And over time, there have been efforts, which is still a work in progress, to get a omni-channel view of the consumer. Okay, and that has really helped us put together some wonderful insights to work upon. And that has actually also helped us in two ways. That at an input level, it helps us kind of target better. It helps make more meaningful propositions for the customer. Let's say somebody who would be needing to upgrade their device. Okay, now that's an interesting insight for us. How do we further leverage that? What do we upsell to that person? Because we know that this person is likely to be upgrading their device. They're looking for better experiences. So maybe even an OTT pack is something that would be of relevance to that. Things like that. And secondly, in terms of our marketing efforts, these customer data points, they're also an output metric to measure the effectiveness and to drive attribution learnings. So that has helped us move our overall GTM approach from being I would say sales oriented to rather than being product oriented, where we roll out initiatives for different cohorts, and basis some early success, some feedbacks. That is how we fine tune the products, and we scale them up. Like in context of festive, like my category, telecom as a category does not really have much of, I would say, a festive windfall gains per se. But yes, these are certain learnings which we have gathered over the past 2 years, 3 years, which are helping us move forward every day.
Okay, so I will ask you for more details on that one shortly. But VARSHIKA, to come back to you, one question I have for you is that a lot of your shoppers are buying online, right? And the mobile specifically is a space where there is a great deal of clutter, especially during festive, which is, I mean, Lucky mentioned that as well. So in this clutter, what are some strategies that you are deploying to sort of stand out in your communication?
Right. That's true, Devika, because 90% of, I think, that time goes into mobile and mobile apps, right? Like people are glued to their screens, and screens are becoming smaller. It used to be TV and then iPad, and now everything is being streamed on mobile. So the screens are becoming smaller, but our ambitions are becoming that much more bigger. And there are 3 ways that we thought to triangulate and control how are we able to break through that clutter when we go to market. One was all about communication, and how do we even talk to the customers the way that they do, and how can we talk to them the way that they do, right? So it's a lot about how am I able to tap into the behavior segment of a consumer, and it's not just about demographic and psychographic anymore. But how do I talk to a consumer who opens my app once a day versus twice a day versus 3 times a day? How do I talk to consumers who maybe buy things in advance for the festive season versus people who buy at the last minute, people who buy gifts versus people who want something just for themselves? So a lot of the communication parameters also help break that clutter. The second point that we really wanted to tackle was how do we utilize and leverage the different channels that we have at this point in time. and which is where a host of suites come and a lot of AI ML learnings come. A lot of video and video selling comes, like Lucky mentioned, right? A lot of video ads anyways brands have pivoted to, but now we see it going into social commerce and live streaming. And how do we tap into these channels? And third, and more importantly, how do you still capture the audience that are with you, and how do you retarget them? Which is where a host of product innovations are coming into play with gamification, incentivization. You see in-game console ads, you see AR/VR ads, people being able to connect with you, to spend more time with you, to give you that kind of an attention span just because they're interested and engaged with you, right? And I think we were trying to hit all of these three things even now as we go into mobile marketing. And I remember we in fact did something similar with the Lance team a year back when we did this during last year's festive season as well. To be able to hit across all the communications of different kinds of ways that we can talk to beauty customers, to be able to leverage the lock screen, roadblock campaigns. And that's the kind of innovative campaigns that I think helps give you eyeballs in a very way that people do actually want to communicate, and not just for the sake of reach. So I think that's how we really want to look at breaking the clutter with mobile marketing.
Thank you for that. So data and data-led personalization and a multi-channel strategy, I think, is then core to how you're looking to break the clutter. Understood? Mohit, if I can come back to you with the bit that you were talking about, how an omni-channel strategy has helped you get a richer understanding of your consumer. How are you looking to deploy some of that through campaigns in the coming months?
So Devika, some of the trends that we are seeing right now is, in terms of, the mass scale of things, if I would say. So while COVID would have really accelerated certain of those changes, and some would have reversed, but some interesting ones, they have stayed back. And firstly is, the increased time spent on digital platforms. And within digital, there are, multiple call outs. So within the digital ecosystem, so first is the short video ecosystem, which is really, being the big driver of, the time spent on mobile. And today on many social platforms, apparently that is a format which has driven, 2x, 3x of, time spent over a pre-COVID levels. So that is one aspect that we definitely are looking forward to leverage in various ways, be it in terms of brand advertising, like creating short, quicker, fast working edits, or be a part of the content, as like you had earlier pointed out, leveraging this whole creator economy, which is, like exploding. It's literally exploding. It's not even like surging, it's exploding. That's the word I would call it. Secondly, armed with, better data, I think personalization is also the other thing that we are going after. And personalization for us is on two fronts. A, it's on the consumer front, and B, it's on the environment front. And on the environment front, I would mean that when I'm talking to somebody on an entertainment ecosystem versus, let's say, a social ecosystem versus a gaming ecosystem, my product could be same, but my way of communication would vary according to these environments, certain experiments around these have helped us, at a primary level, we boost our CTRs by more than 2x, like, deploying differential creatives on the, in the ecosystem that we are. And the one, I would say the third call out for me would be, the growing opportunities around the Web 3.0 capabilities, wherein, today we come across various examples of, brands doing certain showcase in the metaverse. And even for Airtel, we launched, India's first multiplex in metaverse for our extreme premium OTT offering, which is, a bundled OTT offering. And we got fantastic engagement rates on that. And the kind of social chatter that we monitored, that was like at an all-time high that we would have seen in the recent years. So I think leveraging these upcoming trends definitely is something which will get you, your audience's share of mind for sure, which you can then leverage to, drive your different programs or initiatives.
Got it. Thank you. Lucky, one last question for you. You spoke about regional communication being one of the pillars for the upcoming festive period, right? But another thing that stands out about Meesho is the fact that you're connecting buyers and sellers in a very, very big way. So given that differentiation, is there anything you're doing that builds specifically on this differentiator in the coming period?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, I think, we have a very, very large seller community, right? Like, and it's grown leaps and bounds in the last few months. And we're also quite excited and also astonished with the digital understanding and openness of both sides, right? Sellers and users, right? We tentatively usually used to think Metro Tier 1 has more affinity, they're more savvy with digital, they're more engaging, right, in that sense. But I think just the way people are today, like Mohit said, today, I think shorts as a platform, right, or content in short form is bursting out of its seams, right? Billions and billions of views. Live is 1 out of 5 videos on Facebook is live today, right, in that sense. So people want to be able to engage a lot more. I think what I in my mind started to think is that the age of FYI marketing is almost kind of done. I think it's FYA marketing. So it's not for your information, it's for your attention, right? So if you're not, being meaningful about my attention, like why do I want your 10 seconds? It's a problem, right? Now, as a platform, I think a couple of things I would like to kind of leave with the audiences is I think we're not giving enough attention to the power of Varnak. And in a country like ours, it's a massive unlock. So I think from marketers' point of view, really betting early bets on Varnak. Today, I think there are at least 7 or 8 local language OTT players growing very, very fast in Bengali, in Telugu, in Tamil, and you'll be shocked at the views that they do in some of their episodes, right? So affinity will come from there. Trust me, after a point of time, building brand affinity will always happen on the back of familiarity. And Varnak brings that familiarity. So I think start betting big on identifying these next big bets on Varnak. Start creating content with partners who are good in Varnak. I think brands kind of also not being able to kind of do a good job because there are very few folks who can create good Varnak content from a brand ads creation point of view, right? But lots of good folks on ground doing great work. So how are we kind of leveraging the relationship, right? The other part is, I think, being able to kind of localize in Varnak, right? So today, a lot of our push notifications, a lot of our CRM is hugely localized in that sense, right? So from imagery to conversations to the look and feel, everything is very local. So I think that's probably another way. Other thing, I think it's very important, I think from brands' point of view, I think, right, to get festive demand. I think platform marketing is a big lever today, right? So I think as marketers and as brands, you got to understand how to leverage that, right? It's large, like millions of people coming every month, lots of people shopping. You have lots of strong signals of what they're browsing and shopping. But are we diving deep enough into understanding what makes platform marketing works, right? So I think that will be second lever. And I think last but not the least, let's always remember that in today's times when, it's not as rosy in terms of at least, inflation is rising, cost pressures are everywhere, brands are also under tremendous pressure to grow with the same amount of money. I think retention and engagement of existing users and using your 1P data in the most rich way, I think winning on that will become extremely critical. So what are your tools to kind of understand your 1P a lot more? What are your tools to be able to segment and hyper target, right? Because there you have enough information available. I think 3P is still a little more, fast story. So I would say these 3 would be the areas which I think if one focuses on, both as marketers, brands, I think one should be able to kind of, tap new opportunities.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. I'll stop with the questions now. And Lloyd, Shrishna, if you can let me know if there are any audience questions. But while we wait for questions to surface, thank you all so much. I think this discussion has actually been quite a goldmine for people who are listening in, with very, very diverse views coming in from all 3 participants and very unique perspectives of how we can look at evolving consumer trends with respect to content and creators and communities And I think this has been an absolutely fantastic discussion. Any questions, people?
Yeah, in fact, what could be done also, Devika, in case if anyone has any particular questions, they could possibly write to you all on email. We can share those coordinates and possibly you could take it ahead from there. In fact, yes. In fact, a splendid session. I think the kind of inputs, the kind of POVs, myself as well, besides I'm sure the audiences who have logged on today, I think it was a superbly engaging session. Some relevant, very relevant insights, keeping in mind the festive season coming up for all of us, especially marketeers. Thanks a lot, speakers. And a big thanks to you, Devika, for superbly guiding and directing the conversation and getting the best out of these panelists. Thanks again. So before, in fact, letting you all go, just a quick reminder, we have, of course, we have our annual awards night Smarties coming up, which is scheduled for September 30th. I trust many of you all are already engaged and aware of this awards of Smarties. We are in the 11th edition. The pre-screening is on. Quite a huge process is on as far as the pre-screening, and look forward to seeing you all on the 30th when the finalists winners will be announced. And yes, I trust you all are following us. In case you all are not, the QR code which you all can log in, or rather you all can scan the same, and you all can follow us on our various handles to know about any further such engaging events, webinars, sessions which we keep doing. So thanks again once more, all you lovely speakers, the moderator and the audiences. Till we meet again, a very good evening and look forward to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.